When people feel trapped by their fate, they often forget the most important truth: your future is not carved in stone. You are not bound forever to the circumstances you were born into or the suffering you once faced. The world may place limits around you, but the mind has no such walls. The power to reshape your life begins not in what you do once, but in what you do daily. One choice made with awareness becomes a turning point. One step taken with intention becomes a shift in direction. Every breath is a new beginning, if you can be present with it. The moment you stop blaming fate and start mastering your response, you move from being controlled by life to becoming the creator of it. You are not a prisoner of destiny. You are the author of your next chapter. And each day your pen is still in your hand. Awareness is the root of all transformation. It is not action that changes life first, but the recognition of what must be changed. A man can spend years trying to fix the outer world while being blind to the patterns inside that create his limitations. This is why true change never begins with movement. It begins with stillness. In stillness, awareness is born. It is the light that reveals the chains we didn't know we were carrying. The moment a person becomes aware of their unconscious habits, reactions, and beliefs, they are no longer trapped by them. Before awareness, life feels like a repetition of events. We call it fate. We say this is just the way things are. But that phrase is not truth, it is programming. It is the result of walking through life asleep, acting without observing, repeating without questioning. Awareness is what awakens the dreamer inside the dream and reminds him that he can reshape what he sees. A man who feels stuck in his destiny has not yet fully observed how he responds to life. He has not noticed the invisible scripts playing in his mind, inherited from family, culture, or trauma. These scripts tell him what he deserves, what is possible, what is not. They make him feel powerless, not because he lacks strength, but because he has never turned his eyes inward to see the thoughts shaping his reality. When awareness begins to develop, these invisible forces start to come into the light. He notices the moment he pulls back from opportunity. He observes the instant he chooses doubt instead of trust. He sees how quickly he gives his power away to fear. And in that seeing, a new space is created. A space where choice can replace reaction. In that space, change becomes possible. Most people do not lack potential. They lack awareness of how they are wasting it. They believe they are waiting for a lucky break or a change in circumstances. But time does not heal what remains unconscious. Time does not reward sleep. It is attention, not time, that transforms life. When awareness is sharp, even a single day can begin to redirect the path of a lifetime. Awareness gives you back your life one moment at a time. It does not demand that you fix everything all at once. It simply invites you to see more clearly what is happening inside you while life unfolds outside. Every emotion, every thought, every instinct becomes part of your training. The more you see, the less you react. The less you react, the more you choose. And the more you choose, the more you build a destiny rooted in alignment instead of automation. But awareness is not always comfortable. It reveals things we would rather ignore. It shows us our contradictions, our insecurities, our shadows. It breaks the illusion that others are responsible for our suffering. This is why most people choose distraction over awareness. They prefer to keep moving, keep doing, keep escaping, because stillness demands that they face what is within. But those who walk the path of discipline know that without awareness, every effort is wasted energy. If the direction is wrong, speed does not help. If the mind is blind, strength does not matter. Awareness is the compass that points you toward your true self, beyond conditioning, beyond fear, beyond the noise of the world. And this compass is inside you, waiting to be activated by presence. Presence is the doorway to awareness. Not tomorrow, not in some perfect future, but now. The breath you are taking right now is the gateway. When you begin to live with awareness of your breath, your posture, your thoughts, your reactions, you begin to reclaim moments that would have passed unconsciously. Those moments become your training ground. They are the bricks of your new destiny. Without awareness, destiny feels like a locked path. With awareness, it becomes a blank page. The stories of your past do not vanish, but they no longer have the final word. You become the author, not the echo. You begin to notice which habits to unlearn, which thoughts to release, which energies to no longer allow in your space. And so, the man who cultivates awareness begins to live differently. He is no longer asleep to his own power. He no longer gives his days away to routines that numb him. He starts to make conscious choices, not out of guilt or pressure, but from a place of clarity. That clarity becomes the foundation of his strength. It grows quietly, invisibly, but its effect touches everything. He speaks with more calm. He moves with more purpose. He surrounds himself with people, habits, and environments that support his path. And even when mistakes happen, he does not fall into despair, because he is watching, learning, and adjusting. Every step is seen. Every action becomes part of a deeper refinement. This is the life of one who has awakened. Not perfect, but present. Not lucky, but aware. And in this awareness, he begins the quiet work of rewriting his destiny, one conscious moment at a time. Discipline is the invisible thread that weaves potential into reality. Without it, even the clearest vision remains a dream. With it, even small, seemingly ordinary actions become sacred steps toward transformation. A man may wake up one morning with a burning desire to change his life, to rise above his past, to rewrite what he once thought was his fate. But if that fire is not harnessed through consistent action, it fades into memory, like so many forgotten intentions. The bridge between where you are and where you are meant to go is not built by emotion or motivation. It is built brick by brick through discipline. Discipline is not a punishment, it is a form of self-respect. It is the decision to act in alignment with your highest self, even when it is inconvenient, uncomfortable, or unseen. Each day offers an opportunity to practice this alignment. The morning you choose to rise instead of sleep, to meditate instead of scroll, to study instead of complain, these are not just habits, they are messages to your destiny. They tell the universe what you are ready for. They tell your mind what matters most. And over time, these actions shape your identity. You become the one who does not need to be pushed. You become the one who moves even when no one is watching. This quiet momentum becomes your power. It grows slowly, like roots beneath the ground. But one day it breaks the surface. One day what you've built in silence speaks loudly through who you've become. Discipline is often misunderstood. People think it is about restriction, about living a life with no joy. But true discipline is not about removing joy. It is about removing distraction, so that joy can arise from what truly nourishes you. It is choosing the deeper satisfaction of progress over the temporary pleasure of avoidance. It is the courage to delay gratification, not because you fear indulgence, but because you honor your path more than your impulse. A disciplined man is not cold or rigid. He is clear. He does not waste energy deciding whether he will keep the promises he made to himself. He acts without needing to feel like it. This freedom from emotional dependency is the true liberation of discipline. Most people are slaves to their moods. If they feel tired, they stop. If they feel sad, they avoid. But the disciplined individual trains the body to move and the mind to obey, not out of force but out of clarity. Discipline is not a single grand act. It is repetition. It is the willingness to return again and again to what matters, even when progress feels invisible. It is lifting the weight even when the body feels heavy. It is writing the words even when the mind feels empty. It is showing up not for the result, but for the process. And in this process, character is carved. Destiny is not a lightning strike, it is a sculpture. Every daily decision is a chisel in your hand. And though others may not see the shape forming, you know. You feel the shifts inside. You notice your thoughts becoming sharper, your reactions becoming calmer, your focus becoming deeper. These are the signs that your destiny is changing, not in the outer world first, but in the inner architecture of your being. It is easy to live without discipline. That is why so many do. It is easier to react than to reflect. It is easier to chase comfort than to build resilience. But the price of that ease is high. It is paid in regret, in stagnation, in the slow erosion of self-trust. Every time you avoid what you know you must do, you teach yourself that your feelings are more powerful than your purpose. But every time you act in alignment, despite difficulty, you reverse that pattern. You rebuild trust. You prove to yourself that you are not ruled by emotion, but led by intention. And this self-trust is the foundation of all greatness. Without it, you will hesitate when it matters most. With it, you will move with certainty even in uncertainty. Discipline also teaches you patience. Results do not appear overnight. But the man who is disciplined is not attached to speed. He is committed to direction. He knows that small daily efforts compound over time. He does not seek applause after one effort. He seeks evolution through sustained effort. This is why his growth is solid. It does not depend on motivation or perfect conditions. It depends only on his willingness to keep showing up. And in a world that celebrates shortcuts, this long path of discipline becomes sacred. It separates the talkers from the doers, the dreamers from the builders, because anyone can imagine a better future, but only the disciplined shape it with their hands. The man who chooses discipline each day may not see transformation in the mirror at first, but one day he will wake up and realize that the person he has become no longer fears his fate. He has rewritten it, quietly, steadily, patiently. While others waited for permission, he created momentum. While others talked about change, he embodied it. And that embodiment is the mark of real power. A disciplined man does not just hope for a new life, he walks toward it, step by step, day by day, until it stands before him as the undeniable result of his daily choices. The mind can become either the most powerful ally in transforming your life, or the most deceptive prison that keeps you locked in patterns you don't even realize you're repeating. Most people do not fail because of fate, they fail because of the silent and unquestioned voices in their own minds. These voices are not always loud or violent. Sometimes they are soft and convincing, whispering things like "you're not ready, you'll fail again." Others are more capable, or "this is just who you are." And without conscious training, these thoughts become beliefs. Beliefs shape perception, and perception becomes the filter through which reality is experienced. The same event can be a lesson or a defeat, depending on the lens of the mind. The same silence can be peace or loneliness depending on the structure of your inner world. This is why transforming your life begins not with changing the world, but by training the mind to see clearly. Your mind is constantly shaping what you think is possible for you. If it remains untrained, it will default to survival, not growth. It will cling to safety, not freedom. It will repeat what is familiar, even if the familiar is pain. You cannot build a new life on an old mental pattern. You must begin to challenge the thoughts that say your destiny is fixed. You must begin to question every narrative that makes you small, hesitant, or helpless. This questioning is not easy. It requires you to step back from the mind and observe it without believing it. Just because a thought is present does not mean it is true. Just because it feels real does not mean it is reality. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. And the more you rest in that awareness, the more freedom you will begin to experience. Freedom is not the absence of difficulty. It is the ability to respond consciously to it. Most people live in reaction. Something happens, and they respond not with clarity, but with old programming. This reaction becomes their pattern. This pattern becomes their personality. And this personality becomes their destiny. But all of it can change when the mind is restructured. Restructuring the mind is not about forcing positivity or denying pain. It is about seeing clearly how thought arises, how belief forms, how assumptions limit your vision, and how fear disguises itself as logic. The untrained mind justifies limitation in 1,000 intelligent ways. It says, "I don't have enough time," or "I'm too old," or "I've already failed too many times." But all of these are statements made from fear, not from possibility. The trained mind does not ignore fear, but it does not obey it. It sees fear as a signal to pay attention, not a wall that cannot be crossed. It treats doubt as a companion to be understood, not a master to be followed. The shift from mental prison to mental pathway begins with awareness, continues through discipline, and deepens through observation. You begin to notice which thoughts energize you and which ones drain you. You start seeing how certain beliefs make you shrink. And with enough observation, those beliefs begin to lose their grip. You no longer identify with them. You no longer act on them. You begin choosing new responses, creating new habits, and slowly building a new internal reality. This new inner world becomes your compass. It becomes the foundation upon which you start to reconstruct your life, not from fear but from clarity. The more clarity you gain, the fewer excuses you make. The more you understand how much your mind was limiting you, the more strength you gather to expand beyond it. You realize that fate was not the enemy, it was the mirror reflecting your inner structure. Change the structure, and the reflection begins to shift. Even in solitude, even in setbacks, the trained mind finds lessons. It does not panic in silence, it listens. It does not run from difficulty, it studies. It becomes curious about pain instead of bitter from it. This curiosity leads to wisdom. Wisdom leads to freedom. The more you understand the patterns of your own mind, the more you stop blaming the world for your circumstances. You begin to take full responsibility, not from guilt, but from empowerment. If the mind helped create the problem, then the mind can be trained to create the solution. But this training must be done daily. The mind left alone returns to comfort, it drifts into habit, it follows the loudest voice. You must become the stillest one. You must be the quiet, steady presence behind the noise, guiding the mind with care, with courage, and with consistency. When the mind becomes a pathway, destiny opens. Opportunities appear, not because they were never there, but because now you can see them. Choices expand, not because the world changed, but because your mental lens became clear. The work to transform your mind is slow, but it is sacred. And the man who commits to that work is no longer waiting for fate to rescue him. He becomes the one who creates direction from discipline and freedom from focus. This is not the easy path, but it is the only path that leads from inner blindness to true vision. When the mind serves you, the future no longer threatens you. It calls you, and you are finally ready to walk toward it, not with fear, but with full awareness. Letting go is one of the most difficult disciplines to master because it demands a deep trust in life and an even deeper trust in yourself. The past carries a weight that is both familiar and deceptive. It can feel like identity, like truth, like an inseparable part of who you are. But often what we carry is not who we are, it's who we had to be to survive what happened. And until we release that weight, our hands remain too full to receive anything new. Destiny cannot enter a heart that clings to yesterday. It cannot be rewritten by someone who is still reciting the old chapters. Letting go is not about erasing the past. It is about transforming your relationship with it. It means you no longer allow your mistakes to define your worth. You no longer let betrayal become your belief. You no longer wear pain like armor, confusing it for strength. You look at the memory, feel it, respect it, and then allow it to stay where it belongs behind you. Most people carry invisible burdens. Words that hurt them years ago still echo in their decisions. Failures from the past still direct their self-doubt today. Missed opportunities still poison their confidence. They say they want to move forward, but they are dragging a life behind them that was never meant to be permanent. The mind replays the past not to punish us, but because it has not yet learned the lesson. Once the lesson is understood, the memory no longer needs to be repeated. But understanding cannot happen while we are still resisting, still blaming, or still identifying with the pain. Letting go requires the strength to sit with what happened, to feel it without judgment, and to ask what it came to teach you. Only then can the energy be released. You cannot let go of what you haven't truly faced. There is a difference between suppressing and surrendering. Suppressing means hiding pain under activity, under distractions, under smiles. Surrendering means allowing that pain to rise, to be seen, and to pass. Suppression is resistance, and what you resist will persist. But surrender is healing. It says, yes, this hurt, but it does not own me. It is not the end of my story. Letting go of the past does not mean forgetting what you went through. It means you stop feeding it with your present energy. You stop using it as the reason you cannot grow. You stop carrying it into every decision, every relationship, every goal. And once that happens, your future begins to breathe. It starts to open. Possibilities you couldn't see before now appear, not because they weren't there, but because your mind was too clouded to recognize them. Many people unconsciously sabotage their own growth because they are still loyal to the identity formed through suffering. They fear who they will be without their story. They fear peace because it feels unfamiliar. But holding on to pain because it's familiar is not wisdom, it is self-imprisonment. True freedom comes when you no longer need your past to justify your present, when you no longer use what happened as a reason for staying small, when you no longer treat every new opportunity with suspicion because of an old betrayal. This freedom doesn't arrive suddenly. It arrives each time you choose presence over memory, clarity over assumption, and courage over fear. Letting go is not a one-time event. It is a daily decision to return to the present moment with open eyes and open hands. Sometimes we think we are holding on to the past, but in truth, it is holding on to us. It is so woven into our habits, our thoughts, our responses that we don't even realize how often it speaks for us. A harsh tone in conversation, a quick withdrawal from connection, a hesitation before taking a risk. These are often the fingerprints of old wounds, and they will remain until we gently remove them. Awareness brings attention to these moments, but only intentional letting go can replace them with new ways of being. You must give yourself permission to heal. You must declare that your life is worth more than being stuck in a loop of unconscious pain. You must recognize that growth and comfort do not walk the same path. And when you choose growth, letting go becomes a sacred offering. An offering that says, I choose who I become, not what I was made into. This act of release gives birth to space. Space in your mind, in your heart, in your schedule, in your spirit. And in that space, new possibilities start to rise. You become lighter, more intuitive, more creative. You no longer react from wounds, but respond from wisdom. People will notice, but they won't always understand. They may say you've changed, and you have, but only by removing what never truly belonged to you. When the weight of the past drops, your posture changes. You stand taller, you walk clearer, and you finally move freely, not away from the past, but toward a future no longer shaped by it. This is how destiny is rewritten, not in one dramatic gesture, but in the quiet, courageous act of releasing what no longer serves your becoming. Each morning is not just a repeat of the day before, it is an invitation to begin again, an invitation to realign, to reconnect, to redirect. The power of the morning lies not in what the sun brings, but in what the inner world is ready to release and receive. Most people treat mornings as obligations. They wake up already tired, already behind, already dragging the weight of yesterday into the present. They begin the day with noise, with distraction, with a mindset already shaped by the habits they've stopped questioning. But those who walk the path of awareness know that the morning is sacred. It is the one moment where the world is still quiet, the mind is still soft, and the potential for intentional choice is at its highest. This is not about routines for productivity. It is about positioning the heart and mind in such a way that the day ahead is approached with clarity, not confusion, with presence, not programming. When you open your eyes in the morning, you are not simply waking from sleep, you are waking into possibility. You are given another chance to choose differently. The past does not enter the new day unless you invite it. Regret, guilt, bitterness, laziness, these are not part of the sunrise. They are shadows we carry into it. The man who is committed to his path does not let the light of the morning be dimmed by the burdens of yesterday. He understands that destiny is written in small strokes, in repeated actions, in humble beginnings. Each morning becomes the foundation of that effort. It becomes a ritual, not in routine, but in intention. Even the smallest gestures, a stretch, a deep breath, a silent moment of gratitude are not meaningless. They are signals to the body and the mind that today will not be lived unconsciously. There is something powerful in the silence of early hours. Before messages arrive, before demands are placed, before the world expects anything, there is only you. And in that quiet space, there is the clearest mirror of who you are becoming. If you use that space to scroll, to complain, to avoid, then you are rehearsing helplessness. But if you use that space to reflect, to move, to breathe with awareness, then you are training for alignment. This is not about achieving perfection, it is about beginning. The beginning shapes the tone, and the tone of your morning echoes throughout your day. When you start with chaos, you carry chaos. When you start with presence, you carry peace. Rewriting destiny does not happen in grand declarations. It happens in subtle shifts that repeat until they replace what no longer serves. The disciplined individual understands that excuses are loudest in the morning. The mind will say 5 more minutes. It will say today doesn't matter. It will say yesterday's failure makes today meaningless. But he sees through this noise. He rises anyway. Not because he is always motivated, but because he is trained. Trained to respect the gift of time. Trained to protect the early hours. Trained to place his focus before the world places its distractions. In doing so, he reclaims the power to create. Before anyone else speaks, he has already spoken to himself. Before the world tells him who to be, he has already reminded himself who he is. That clarity, repeated day after day, carves out a mind that is not reactive but rooted. A new day is not neutral. It will move you either closer to your true self or further from it. And it begins the moment you wake up. The body is sensitive to pattern. The mind is shaped by repetition. If you teach it to begin the day with alignment, then eventually alignment becomes the default. The new morning becomes a sharpening stone. You sharpen your focus, your posture, your thoughts. You don't need to do everything. You just need to begin with awareness. That single act creates a ripple. A mind that starts in peace does not panic at the first sign of challenge. A body that moves early does not stagnate. A spirit that reflects before reacting does not fall into confusion when pressure arrives. This is the quiet transformation of a daily reset. People think destiny changes through big decisions, but most of the time it changes through morning decisions. The choice to wake up and move. The choice to be still instead of scattered. The choice to begin with clarity instead of chaos. These are not ordinary moments. They are sacred ones. Every morning gives you the chance to return to what matters. And what matters is not how perfect the day will be, but how intentional the beginning is. Because once the mind knows where it's going, the distractions lose their power. Once the body is in motion, resistance weakens. Once the spirit is aligned, uncertainty cannot shake it. This is the wisdom behind sacred mornings. They are not just about routines. They are about remembering. Remembering that you are not a slave to what was. You are a student of what is. You are the author of what comes next. And every morning the page is blank. Your destiny is not something distant waiting to happen. It is shaped in the silence of your choices, refined through discipline, awakened through awareness, and renewed every single morning. The past may have left its mark, but it does not hold your pen. You do. Each breath, each step, each decision is a brushstroke on the canvas of your future. Let go of what no longer serves you. Train your mind to support you. Show up daily with clarity and intention. And remember, every morning is not just another day. It is life offering you a new chance to become who you truly are.